Hey everyone, I'm Arsh and I work as a developer experience engineer at Okteto. In this video, we are going to take a look at how you can set up preview environments for your repositories with Okteto. Preview environments, for those of you who don't know, offer you a way to show the changes in your pull requests or your merge requests and deploy these changes and give you a link which you can share with everyone on your team. With this, everyone, including non-technical members, part of your organization, be it sales, marketing, or even customers if you want, can be a part of the review process and you can get validation and feedback that your changes actually work. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to set up review environments for the repository I have here. I have already cloned this code and you'll notice that this is a simple single microservice application written in Go. And we have the manifests for deploying this on a Kubernetes cluster already set up. This is something which the DevOps or the SRE team will provide you with. And we are using Customize in this case, which for those of you who don't know, is a tool to basically change change Kubernetes manifests on the go, and we'll see why we are doing that. But it's a pretty common tool. And this way of setting up review environments doesn't really depend on if you're using Customize or not. You could be using Helm charts or even Docker Compose if you want, because Okteto supports that. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to write an Okteto YAML for our application. An Okteto YAML basically tells Okteto how to spin up preview environments and dev environments for your application. We are only going to be focusing on preview environments in this section though. Alright, so let's begin by writing our Okteto manifest. The Okteto manifest is a pretty simple file which is broken into 3 sections. The sections are the build, deploy, and dev section. Let's write each one down and see what makes up these sections. The build section basically tells Okteto how to build your application images. Now, you might say that these images are already present for your application on maybe Docker Hub or your company's private image repository. But the thing is that when you're using preview environments or dev environments, you want the application image to be built from the latest code which is there. And this might not be there on the image repository. So to do this, we simply tell Okteto to build the image from the current code. And the syntax for this is basically we specify the name of the service, which is arbitrary. And in this case, we decided to go with to-do list. Then we specify the image name we want to use. And in this case, we'll use the same name as the service and then give it a tag as well. The octeto.dev URL basically pushes it to Okteto's image repository, and this way you do not have to take care of, worrying about logging in or all that sort of things, because Okteto handles it all behind the scenes for you. The next thing we specify is the context, which is basically where the Docker file is present, and in our case, that is the same directory as the code, so we just end it here. The next thing we do is write the deploy section. The deploy section tells Okteto how to deploy your application whenever it is spinning up a preview environment. Now, the idea here is that you use the same manifests as you use in production, and this ensures that your preview environments and your dev environments replicate production, and you can work in an environment where you have the confidence that whatever code you write would work when you push it to production. So in this case, our manifests are present in the manifest directory. So the first thing we want Okteto when deploying is to change directory into that. And then the thing is that the manifest you get from your production team would be referring to an image which is on Docker Hub or your private image repository, and we instead want to use the image which Okteto just built for us. So what we are going to have to do is leverage Customize here and change the image on the fly when we do that. The customize edit set command will allow us to do exactly that. This is a variable which Okteto introduces for us on its own, and this allows us to reference the image that we would have just built. And once that is done, then we would have replaced the image which we might be getting from Docker Hub in our production manifests with an image we just built. Once that is done, all you need to do is apply these images we just built with the customize flag, of course, and that should take care of this. The dev section is something which is used when you are spinning up your dev environment, and while we populate this section, I won't go into the details of what we are doing here. It should be pretty intuitive to understand, and if you would like to read more about this, you can head over to the documentation and read more. So with this, our Okteto YAML is now completed, and now basically Okteto has all the information regarding our application which it needs to spin up our preview environments. Alright, now that we have our Okteto YAML ready, the next step is going to be creating a GitHub action which will basically trigger on every pull request and tell Okteto to deploy our application and spin up our preview environment. For that, let's head over to the documentation and see how that is done. The first thing we're going to do is need to create the YAML for the GitHub action, and I'm just going to copy the name and create that file now. And we're just going to copy this default settings and we are going to edit it later and see what each option does and means. So let's do that first. If you have ever created a GitHub action, the first part should feel pretty simple to understand. It basically tells GitHub that on any pull request to the main branch, this action needs to be triggered. And then the next section is where we specify the jobs. And coming to the bits which concern Okteto, we see the step section is where we use two actions which Okteto provides. First is the Okteto context action, which basically helps you set the context for your Okteto environment. And this basically points to whatever Okteto instance you're using, if it's Okteto Cloud or your self-hosted cluster, and we'll configure these secrets later on and see how to do that. But this action basically tells which cluster to deploy your preview environment to. The second step basically deploys your preview environment like the name says, and it does so with the help of the GitHub token, which we'll soon see how to get. And the only thing you might want to change here is change this to the name of your namespace in Okteto Cloud, which in my case would be Linkyaki-Dad, and I'll show you how you can set this for yourself in just a bit. So once we have this, now we are going to configure these secrets and see where to get all of these values we need for this action to work. The two key values we are going to be needing is the Okteto URL and the Okteto token. The GitHub token field would be populated automatically by GitHub. So the Okteto URL basically points to the instance of Okteto you're using, basically the cluster you are using. And in this case, it's going to be Okteto Cloud. So we're just going to use that. You should go to cloud.okteto.com and log in with GitHub. I'm going to do that right now. Once we do that, we'll need a secret token which we can get from Okteto, and the way to get your token is basically head to the settings and create a new personal access token. I'm going to say that this token is for my preview environments and generate this token. Once you get this token, we're going to need this value and add it as a secret in our repository. So for that, we head to settings, secret and variables, actions, and create a new repository secret. If we go back, we know that we want to name this secret as Okteto token. So we're going to do just that and copy this value and create our secret. The other secret which we had to create was the Okteto URL. So we are also going to do that and go back. And if we head over to the documentation, even though it's defaulted to cloud.okteto.com, but I would suggest you add this just as a good practice in case you want to change this in the future. Once we have both of these secrets, we are good to go, and what we are going to do is push our code so that GitHub is aware of this action, and this action triggers whenever we create a pull request. So I'm just going to commit my code. Once our code is committed, let's see this in action. All right, now that we have everything done, let's head over to GitHub and see our preview environments in action. But before that, I wanted to show you the app first. It's a simple to-do app, and what we're going to do is make a pull request to maybe change something simple. What do I see? Let's change this text here this is the actual deployed app, and we'll make a pull request which change this text, and we'll see how Okteto's preview environments work, and they deploy that changed application and allow us to view it. So let's go ahead and make our change. We'll go to index.yaml and think the text should be here if I'm not wrong. Enter a task, okay. Let's just change it to don't enter a task because we don't want people to be entering tasks. And changed the text, commit. No, we're going to create a new branch and we're going to create a pull request because that's how our GitHub action is going to get triggered. Target the main branch because that's what we specified in our GitHub action, and we simply create the pull request. once this happens, you'll see that the workflow for the creating the preview environment gets triggered. And if you want logs, you can see this in action by going to the Actions tab on your repository, and then you can follow the action along as it proceeds. You can also go back to your Okteto Cloud instance and go to the Preview Environments tab and read the logs, read the detailed logs here, and see your environment get spun up. But let's skip all that and go back to our pull request and see what happens once this action is completed. Once the action is done running, you'll see that the bot commented that our preview environment has been deployed and the endpoint is available here. You can click on this link and it will take you to the environment, and you see that our change is now deployed. And this was it. This is how simple it is configuring preview environments for your applications. All you need to do is write an Okteto YAML for your repository and then create a GitHub action and commit it. The benefit of preview environments are that they allow you to collaborate easily with your team members, and they allow you to get feedback from a wide variety of people. Initially, the feedback process was only limited to developers and people who could, get the code and build it and run it. Even they had tough times, right? Because you would have to get the code and build it and do all of that. But with preview environments, like you just saw, all you need to do is create a pull request, and then Okteto will take care of everything from deploying the environment to giving you an endpoint which you can access. You can copy this link and send it over to anyone in your team and get feedback. This is very useful instead of getting feedback right before a release when you're in the staging environment, because this allows you to get feedback for each pull request as you make it, and that allows you to iterate better and ship code faster.
So thank you for watching the video, and I hope you found it useful. As next steps, I would invite you to try out preview environments with your own repositories. And you can do this for free by signing up for Okteto. If you want to host Okteto on your own infrastructure, we have a self-hosted model which you get a 30-day free trial for, or you could go ahead and try our SaaS offering. While you're trying this for your own repositories, I would nudge you towards using our docs. The docs do a very good job of helping you out through the process, through the steps we saw in this video. And if at any time you feel stuck or have a question, then please head to our community website and you can create a thread with any problem you've been facing, and we'll get back to you. So this was it, and thank you so much for watching again.